I'm not sure what's going on with Nick. I know he was moving around quite a bit there. So, what else is happening? I'm just looking at the time. We wanted to talk a little bit about the stuff in Afghanistan, but I'm not sure that we really have a whole lot of time to really get into it. Um, it's a bit kind of a bit of a dog's breakfast over there, and but I don't know. Let's see what Nick. Are you still there, Nick?
Yep, right here.
I know he's trying to talk to me because I could see his
Yep.
his thing moving up and down, but I can't really hear him. Oh, I know I can't hear him. Are you there? Are you there, Nick? No, I still can't hear him.
Joseph, you there?
Oh,
he's right here.
Okay, there you are, Nick. Sorry about that. I had to
Yep. No problem.
Do a little bit of technical stuff here. My apologies.
No problem. I do think, though, that we should spend a couple minutes on Afghanistan just from a Joe Biden point of view, because he made a statement this week. Do we have time to get into the clip you got?
Well, it's just a short clip. I'm happy to play it. So, if people will just bear with me for a second,
sure.
I'll play what he had to say.
As of this afternoon, we've helped evacuate 70,700 people just since August the 14th, 75,900 people since the end of July. Just in the past 12 hours, another 19 U.S. military flights, 18 C-17s and one C-130 carrying approximately 6,400 evacuees, and 31 coalition flights carrying 5,600 people have left Kabul just in the last 12 hours.
Okay, so that's Joe Biden talking a little bit about what's going on right now. And I think what we found the most really incredibly fascinating thing was his claim that the Americans in the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure that it's, I'm thinking since, no, less than 2 weeks, about 10 days, have evacuated somewhere in the order of 70,000 people from Afghanistan. That's 70,000. And I have to tell you that I find that number to be a little bit implausible. That's a lot of people. And I'm not entirely sure whether or not I believe that. Now, Nick and I were talking a little bit before the show started, and we were doing some addition and saying, well, you could, if so you were severely pressed, if everything went smoothly, if you had 18 flights, as President Biden claimed, over that period of time, and those flights were completely full of refugees, and virtually only refugees, then you could perhaps make the case that there were that many people evacuated. It's technically, theoretically possible, but given the situation in Afghanistan, given the fact that you're not just flying in, dropping the back panel on the plane, and having people just sort of run on and then taking off. Given the whole situation, I just find that to be an astonishing claim. Now, look, in fairness, maybe they have done it. I have to be open-minded about it, but I still find it to be an incredibly high number of people.
There's a lot of things, though, Joseph, that people have to consider. When we're talking about this, you're right that all the logistics have to work out perfectly. But Afghanistan's a lot of things, but perfect isn't one of them. There's 4.5 million people in Kabul. Now, to evacuate 70,000 in the time frame he's talking about, in the middle of a third world country that's got third world infrastructure, Toronto, you'd have trouble doing this with modern infrastructure. And it's like doing the same thing, moving 100,000 people through Toronto to Pearson in the middle of a war zone. Because consider this, those aircraft have to be fueled. They have to be maintained. They have to be loaded properly so they'll be safe to fly. There's this thing in every airplane called a center of gravity, and you just don't throw everybody's luggage in the back, throw them on top of it, and take off. I mean, under extreme circumstances, which you could argue that this is, maybe you can do that, but you run a huge risk. If the airplane's unstable, now you've got a safety issue. What if it crashes? So far, I don't know of any plane that has. But the point is that the amount of ground team you need to support because these things are massive. They're huge. They're meant to move heavy military equipment and large numbers of troops around the globe. That's what they're designed for. And they're very good at doing it. But they take a tremendous amount of logistical and personnel support. I mean, if you blow a tire when you land, they have to put a new one on. If you have some kind of damage on landing or on takeoff, that has to be repaired. All this stuff, there's so much more to flying an airplane out of an airport than just packing the people in and say, okay, turn left on runway 34 and away you go. No, you've got air traffic control issues. You've got people have to wait as planes come in and leave. The risk to those planes from somebody in the Taliban saying, the hell with this, they're not going anywhere, and start blazing away at a target the size of a C-117, or a C-17 as the Americans call them, is just plain, it makes these numbers just plain ridiculous.
Well, Nick, quite apart from the plausibility of having evacuated that number of people in that period of time, is the whole question of how Afghanistan has been abandoned. The whole approach to Afghanistan in the last year, how the Americans have basically turned their back on it, on the country, on the people there, and not just, frankly, not just the Americans, but the Western world entirely. And there are a few things that I have to say about this. We're very short on time, but just a couple of things to get off my chest. I really cannot stand when I hear about people talking about Afghanistan being the United States' longest war. I have some news for people out there, including our American listeners, and that is Korea. There are
it's still going on.
Many, many, many combat troops still in Korea, guarding South Korea from North Korean aggression. Many more combat troops than were in Afghanistan at the height of anything going on in Afghanistan. And Korea, they've been in Korea now for the better part, for longer now than 70 years. That's 70 years. Korea, not Afghanistan, is America's longest war. Because they've never signed a peace treaty. They have an armistice, a ceasefire, essentially, is what they have. And from time to time, they actually do shoot at each other. So Korea is the hot spot in the world militarily. But it's also, interestingly enough, it's a great success story when you look at how South Korea, over a period of time, under American protection, has managed to rebuild itself and establish itself as one of the world's leading emerging democracies, great and a great economy, incredibly free market oriented, everything that you want to see. Now, Afghanistan is no South Korea for a lot of reasons. But then again, I have to say that I don't think that this is where I think the big failing was, that I just don't think that Americans or Canadians or the rest of the West really had a clear idea of how they were going to help Afghanistan become a Korea within the context of Afghanistan, because there are significant differences. For sure.
All they did was take the same tactics they used in Vietnam, enhance them a little bit with upgraded firepower from the air, and fought the Vietnam War all over again. And are we surprised to see the same result? I mean, you don't just drop into a country, set up fire bases, and say, come get me. Because guess what? They do. And it's their turf. You have to draw a line in the sand, and you have to start walking forward, and you say, anybody who raises a weapon against us and tries to use it, you're going to die, or you're going to be captured. And you keep right on going until you clean the country out. That's how you win a war. That should be your model for it. It's what we did in every war up until Korea. Well, even in Korea, they tried in the beginning. But up until World War II, that's how wars were waged and won. You can't stop fighting till the other guy gives up.
All right, Nick, I hate to do this to you, Nick, but we're running up against the top of the hour here. So we're going to have to spend some time on this maybe next week. So I'm, as I'm looking at the clock, we really are running up against the time. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Joe, he's Nick, and tune in next week again. And Nick, over to you.
All right. With that said, I wish you all a good night, and we'll see you all again next week. Ubicaritas et amor, Deus, CBS. Good evening. God bless. Don't let anything disturb your peace, not even Justin Trudeau. And may you have a fair wind and a following sea.